Good evening, I'm Cynthia Ng. This is AWANI Tonight. Putrajaya says court order to seize Petronas assets not enforceable. And Malaysia scores poorly in women representation in politics. What's discouraging women to get involved? That's coming up. The proposed anti-hopping bill is expected to come into effect by early September. Minister in the Prime Minister's Department for Parliament and Law, Datuk Sri Dr. Wan Junaidi Tuanku Jaafar, says the drafted bill will be presented to Parliament on July 18th.
After it is tabled next Monday, debates on the amendment are set to take place on July 27th and 28th. Engagement by the Legal Affairs Division of the Prime Minister's Department and the Attorney General's chambers with government MPs will be on July 25th, and for opposition MPs on July 26th. Following this, engagement with members of the Dewan Negara will be on August 8th. After receiving approval from both houses, Wan Junaidi says the amendment will be presented to the King between August 11th and 26th for assent, and then gazetted between August 29th and September 2nd.
Datuk Sri Wan Junaidi says that the Paris Court of Appeal had granted leave to Putrajaya's application to suspend a ruling that declared the Malaysian government was liable to a billion ringgit settlement claimed by heirs of the now defunct Sultanate. In a statement, he said the leave therefore means the previous ruling cannot be enforced in any country until an ultimatum is reached in Paris. Authorities in Luxembourg reportedly seized the assets of two Petronas subsidiaries claimed by the so-called Sultanate. The seizure was part of a legal effort launched in 2017 by the heirs to receive compensation for land in Sabah that they say their ancestor leased to a British trading company in 1878. Wan Junaidi stressed that the Malaysian government has never recognized the claim and that leave was granted on the basis that the award threatens Malaysia's sovereignty. Indonesia will impose a temporary freeze on the recruitment of workers for all sectors in Malaysia, effective immediately. Indonesian ambassador to Malaysia, Hormono, says this was communicated to Human Resources Minister Datuk Sri M. Saravanan yesterday.
According to him, Indonesia has evidence that the Malaysian Immigration Department continued to use the Made Online system to facilitate the recruitment of domestic workers into the country. This, he says, is a breach of terms in the Memorandum of Understanding (MOU) signed between the two nations on April 1st. The MOU details the recruitment and protection of Indonesian domestic workers. All applications submitted from today will be put on hold, along with up to 20,000 applications already received. In response, Saravanan says the matter will be discussed with Home Affairs Minister Datuk Sri Hamzah Zainuddin.
A woman who courted controversy during a stand-up comedy performance was charged with insulting Islam today. 26-year-old Siti Nur Amira Abdullah, however, pleaded not guilty when the charge was read to her at the Kuala Lumpur Sessions Court. Nur Amira was charged under Section 298A of the Penal Code with causing disharmony among the Muslim community during a performance at the Crack House Comedy Club in Taman Tun Dr. Ismail on June 4th. If found guilty, she could be jailed for 2 to 5 years. A 54-second video which went viral on social media showed her introducing herself as a Muslim. She claimed to have memorized 15 chapters of the Quran and then proceeded to discard her tudung and baju kurung to reveal another set of clothes underneath. Malaysia ranked 103rd among 146 countries in the gender gap rankings this year, an improvement from 112th last year. The report by the World Economic Forum showed women attained high scores in access to education and health. Women's involvement in the political arena, however, remains particularly low. The report, which tracks progress toward gender equality in the fields of economy, politics, education and health, noted only 15% of Malaysia's parliamentarians were women, while just 16.1% of ministerial positions were held by females. It also noted the country has never had a female prime minister. The report added that the average income of Malaysian women was 83% of what men earned, while only 25% of legislators, senior officials and manager roles were held by women. Having ranked 123 out of 146 countries in terms of political empowerment, Malaysia has a long way ahead before achieving gender equality in politics. Batu Kawan MP Kasturi Pato discusses certain factors that are discouraging women from getting involved in the field.
I think the first issue would be to field more female candidates. Last elections, we only had 60 candidates who were fielded in GE14 out of thousands and thousands of candidates that we had seen all over the country. And I think this reflects the need for more women to step forward, to step up and say, I am interested in politics, and therefore the next step would be to put myself out there and to run for a candidacy. But you cannot look at the issue of women's participation in politics and their representation in national assemblies or state assemblies solely based on this alone. The outer ring on women's participation or women empowerment in the political field comes with also ensuring that we move away, or rather we criminalize toxic politics. We know that for decades and decades, the political system has been very patriarchal in the country. It has been, to a great extent, very misogynistic as well. Outside the house and inside the house, not just language, but also treatment. And this is, of course, because of culture. It has been for decades that you have not seen this many women MPs in the parliament, and also an increase of women senators in the upper house as well.
Encouraging more women to participate in politics requires an all-of-society approach. Kasturi says it should include normalizing the conversation of shared responsibility to lift women's domestic burden.
We often never hear the question of how do you manage time now that you are an elected rep? This question, we never hear it asked to men, even though they are fathers, even though they are grandfathers, even though they are uncles. But we often never hear them, oh, YB, now that you are elected, how are you going to manage your time between your work and your family? But we often hear that's the first question that they throw at women. How are you going to juggle your time between family and your career? And worse, if you plan to have children, how are you going to do that? So this sort of archaic thinking has to be out the window. If we ask women this question, I think we can also ask men this question too. And then this would stir the conversation on shared responsibility. But having a supportive family is important. Having a supportive system is important. Having a supportive community is important as well. And I think this would drive the agenda of more women to be keen in politics, to put themselves out there. But, something so traditional shouldn't be holding women back anymore. There are other avenues that we can look at. And also now brings in the conversation of affordable childcare, that the government also must step up their game in terms of supporting women, not just women in politics, but women who are going to go out to work, who are going to contribute to the economic cycle in the country. I think all this needs to be looked into.
Globally, the gender gap remains widest in politics. Across the 146 countries covered in the WEF report, the gap in health closed by around 96%, education 94%, and the economy 60%, but only by 22% in politics. At this rate, it would take 155 years for the world to achieve gender parity in politics. Overall, WEF estimates it will take 132 years to fully close the global gender gap. It marks a slight improvement compared with the 2021 estimate, which put the time frame at 136 years. The global timeline had stood at 99 years before the COVID pandemic, but regressed due to the negative effects of the crisis, such as reduced labor force participation by women.
COVID-19 memperlihatkan kepada kita betapa pantasnya adaptasi teknologi di kalangan PKS kita. Niaga AWANI dan Unified Business akan menyelami perjalanan kebangkitan semula PKS kita melalui segmen Jiwa SME setiap Selasa dan Khamis untuk inspirasi anda.
Transformasikan perniagaan dengan Unified Business, rakan digital pilihan anda. Hubungi kami sekarang dan jimat sehingga 50%. Jom Unified Business.
Hello gang, welcome to event Astro Rewards.
And then I saw this reward and then I just clicked and then try to participate and who knows, I'm here.
Yeah, we won this time, so thank you, Astro.
Thank you so much, Astro, for the rewards and for the foods and for the movies.
Most of our contests, the participation rate has increased tremendously. This also motivates us to work harder to bring more rewards to all Astro customers.
Whew! Memang terbaik movie dia. Astro Rewards, thank you so much.
Let's get to the latest developments in Sri Lanka. Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe has been appointed as acting president. This was after Gotabaya Rajapaksa fled the country earlier today without resigning. Wickremesinghe's appointment is, however, unlikely to satisfy the demands of protesters calling for a change of the entire political leadership. Protesters surrounded the Prime Minister's residence in the capital, Colombo, as the new acting president tells the military to restore order. Rajapaksa left for the Maldives just hours before he was expected to resign to make way for a unity government. A nationwide state of emergency has been declared in Sri Lanka. Its defense chief has called for calm and urged the public to cooperate to maintain law and order. Malaysians living in Sri Lanka, meanwhile, were advised by the High Commission there to stay indoors after the government imposed a curfew. 8 Conservative candidates are in the running to replace Boris Johnson as the party's next leader and the country's Prime Minister. The first round of voting begins today. Candidates will need the backing of at least 20 Tory lawmakers to proceed to the next round. The 8 candidates are former Finance Minister Rishi Sunak, Foreign Secretary Liz Truss, new Finance Minister Nadhim Zahawi, former Health Minister Jeremy Hunt, and International Trade Minister Penny Mordaunt. Other leadership hopefuls include Army veteran Tom Tugendhat, Attorney General Suella Braverman, and former Equalities Minister Kemi Badenoch. What happens next is each MP will need to secure at least 30 votes in order to advance to the next stage. Candidates who fail will be eliminated, and ballots will be held daily until just 2 candidates are left in the race, likely by mid-next week. The final 2 candidates will then face a vote of some 150,000 party members, and the winner is expected to be announced on September 5th. Recently released surveillance footage of the school shooting in Uvalde, Texas, has caused a new wave of anger. The video showed police waiting for more than an hour before breaching a classroom where a gunman killed 19 children and 2 teachers. The video, posted by the Austin American Statesman news portal, shows the 18-year-old gunman Salvador Ramos entering Robb Elementary School carrying a semi-automatic rifle. Police officers were seen arriving minutes later, but another 77 minutes go by before they stormed the classrooms and exchanged fire with him. With the release of the footage, Uvalde residents renewed calls for accountability and claimed that explanations and investigations were incomplete 7 weeks since the shooting. The video also leaves questions outstanding, in particular, why the law enforcement response was so delayed. Is there public appetite to reform Malaysia's drug policies to a more rehabilitative and health-based approach? Tonight on Consider This, we speak to our guest about the Centre's new study on Malaysians' views on drug use and what constitutes proportionate punishment. That's all we have for you on AWANI tonight. My name is Cynthia Ng. Thank you for watching.
Hello and good evening. I'm Melissa Idris. You're watching Consider This. This is the show where we want you to consider and then reconsider what you know of the news of the day. Now, there have long been calls to replace Malaysia's highly punitive approach to drugs with more holistic and evidence-based policies. However, the think tank The Centre argues that public perception towards drug-related issues remain underexplored. Now, to address this gap, they've conducted a nationwide